A recent study by the Freedom Fund shows that slavery of Syrian refugees in Lebanon is a rapidly growing concern. It includes child labour, early marriage, sexual exploitation and forced labour. At a recent Black Coffee morning event at our London offices, a panel of experts discussed how Europe could help ensure the protection of Syrian refugees in Lebanon.
Well, Europe has a vested interest in improving conditions for refugees in Syria, because if refugees are subject to abuse and exploitation, then of course they have a greater incentive to seek to migrate. And so given that there's such a strong desire on behalf of the EU and European governments to reduce migration, one way to do that is to improve the conditions of refugees in Lebanon. And so the EU can use its aid levers by ensuring that it meets its aid promises and fulfills its aid pledges, but also using those to try and address some of the underlying circumstances, such as encourage the Lebanese government to provide refugees with a right to work. We've seen that happen in Turkey, where refugees are given a limited right to work. That would address some of the most extreme forms of exploitation, because refugees have to support themselves and they have no means to do so currently. So we would encourage European governments to think very carefully about engaging with the Lebanese government on rights to work and official status in Lebanon.
According to the report, it is not only the humanitarian disaster which is causing the different manifestations of slavery, but also the structural factors that underpin the Lebanese government's response to the humanitarian crisis.
Number one along those lines is that the Lebanese government denies the right to work to Syrian refugees. Connected with that, it also means that Syrian refugees are not recognised as refugees in Lebanon at all. They are almost disbarred from holding work permits in Lebanon, and that is because the barrier is so high to apply for a work permit. So our number one recommendation is that the Lebanese government should accord refugee status to Syrians actually in Lebanon at the moment. We recognise that that's an aspiration rather than something which is going to happen in the next few months, but we wanted to get that out there as an aspiration, and our subsidiary recommendation therefore is that the Lebanese government give a 2-year temporary protection status to Syrians present in the country, which would be coupled with a right to work. So this would mean that the Lebanese government, there's no long-term implications for them. It's simply a 2-year temporary protection status. The EU can do a lot more to leverage support for that idea, for our recommendation that the Syrian refugees in Lebanon are given a 2-year temporary protection status.